Welcome back, everybody. Look who it is. It's Raj, Rudolph. We are Boys on Film.
Hey, Phil.
Hey. We're talking Possessor, and we're talking Brandon Cronenberg, the son of the very famous horror director David Cronenberg. Are you a big fan of Cronenberg's work? I mean, we're talking David Cronenberg, obviously, first, because he started it.
I'm not like a massive fan, but, I like, whenever I see the name on as a director, I'm like, this should be interesting.
He's definitely got his own style, hasn't he? And I think that really carries through with his son Brandon's work. I think Brandon's this film, I think, very much looks like a David Cronenberg film.
Yeah, I definitely got that sense as well.
So it features Christopher Abbott, Andrea Riseborough, who we saw in one of the episodes of Black Mirror. Do you remember the episode she was in? I think it was the last series.
I might have to IMDb that film.
Yeah, I can't remember the title of that Black Mirror episode, but she was really good in it. I always think she comes across quite cold. I think she's perfectly cast for this film, because obviously she plays quite a strange, quite a dark character. But do you want to tell us about the story? Because this is a real sci-fi horror classic in the making. I think this is going to be a sort of film that a lot of fans of that genre are going to look back on and say, this is one to watch.
Yeah, Possessor tells a story of maybe like an overt assassination group, but very slick and very stylized, led by a character played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. You sit the assassins in the machine, and it somehow they are able to possess. This machine is able to possess other bodies to do their assassination work. Very high tech, a little sci-fi. Very clean, very precise, interesting special effects. Possessor really is the story of this woman who's an assassin who takes over other people's body to do hit jobs. To me, it was very fascinating, but of course it wouldn't be a good film if it all went to plan, and one of her assignments does not go to plan.
I mean, the story itself is kind of like a Black Mirror episode, isn't it? It's very disturbing.
If it would have had that Black Mirror titles on it, I totally would have thought it was an episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah, but we should perhaps warn people that don't know much about Cronenberg's work. I mean, David Cronenberg's work. Brandon Cronenberg really pushes the gore, pushes the violence. I mean, it is quite a gruesome film in many ways, but it really did get under my skin. I mean, there are so many scenes in this that unnerved me. Just mainly, I mean, to do with the story, because the story is quite a fascinating story when you think of somebody invading somebody else's being and becoming that person. That's a great movie in itself, isn't it?
It was interesting because I thought, like, in the beginning, the person would die, or they were like near death and they would like take over their body or something, but the person was still inside and just completely took over. And the big storyline is the case that, I think the guy was mentally fighting her, and while he was being possessed by her. All sorts of interesting things sort of happen when that arrives. But I was kind of fascinated from the beginning. Like, they showed the first hit job, and, it's not if you're picked to do a hit job as the innocent party, it's not a nice ending for you generally. So, because they literally hijack your body and kill you off in the end to fulfill a contract. But yeah, I find any sort of assassination movies kind of interesting. It reminded me a lot of Existence too, with Jennifer Jason Leigh, and that's a Cronenberg film, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, because obviously she's got a smaller role in this film, Jennifer Jason Leigh, but I think she's great and she's perfectly cast for this. But I kind of wanted her part to be bigger. But yeah, I mean, Existence, it's very similar in tone, isn't it?
Totally, I was getting massive Existence vibes throughout because I love that film, and it's sci-fi, but it's kind of like indie sci-fi, and it's not as clean and pretty, but there's not a lot of CGI in it. It's like realistic sci-fi. And
a lot of action as well, because there is quite a bit of action in this too.
Yeah. So I love that. I love the whole fact that like Jennifer Jason Leigh must be some sort of Cronenberg muse because of Existence and because of this film. But I was pretty fascinated through it. I really enjoyed it, and it was pretty gruesome in some bits, like almost like borderline horror a little bit. So.
And I think kind of over the top horror as well. There was one moment which I just thought, oh, you're not going to show that, are you? And yes, they showed it. I'm a hardened horror fan, but even that scene was quite gruesome. But it was done in a very Cronenberg way that was very almost over the top makeup, and I don't mean in a tacky way, because I think it was really effective and it was done brilliantly. But there were certain sections that were so over the top in a makeup kind of way that you just think, wow, that it's stylistically is typical of Cronenberg, of his father. I mean, I keep mentioning that, but it's definitely passed on, isn't it, in his genes?
Yeah, you could see the Cronenberg gene went straight to
the whole contortions, the facial contortions, and lots of blood. I mean, there's lots of blood in this film.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have a Cronenberg stamp on it if there wasn't some sort of twist at the end, and there's definitely a twist.
Yeah, yeah. I do wonder if Andrea Riseborough wasn't the lead in this, because I think she has this very expressionless face, and I mean that in a nice way. I don't mean that she's not very good at acting, because I think she's superb. But I do wonder, because she's very cold, and I just wonder if somebody else had taken her role. It may have been a different film.
The only other person I could see doing this is, of course, Tilda Swinton. She's in everything these days.
Yeah.
But she has very similar acting styles, I think.
Quite robotic.
Yeah, robotic, a little cold, intelligent.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, I wonder what she would have been like in this role. But I thought she did play the role quite well, and I really enjoyed it. So.
And we saw Sean Bean as well. Sean Bean played the media mogul, wasn't he? The father-in-law.
The main guy that was possessed. I'm not sure what his name was, but I thought he was really good too. Like, his role was quite as big as the main actress's role too. So, I really felt for the middle part of the film. It was him in the lead, and then it was bookended by her performance. So yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I didn't have high expectations, but it was a quite enjoyable film for me. Even with Existenz being one of my favorite movies, there would be no way that I wouldn't enjoy a film like that. And another one of my favorite movies is Gattaca. The very similar style. Probably because I'm a futurist that I like films that kind of push the envelope when it talks about what could happen 10 years from now. So.
Yeah, this is definitely provocative cinema, and I love directors and writers that do that like you say, push the envelope and move the goalposts as well, because Crash, obviously a Cronenberg film that was very controversial at the time, and I think probably still, even to this day, is quite a controversial movie. And The Fly, obviously, I mean, that's a real classic. I think Cronenberg, he had more mainstream films. This is probably, it sits somewhere in between, doesn't it, as a mainstream horror sci-fi blockbuster, and also something that's really independent in feel. It's got that feel about it.
Well, I'd be curious to see what Mr. Brandon Cronenberg does next. If he's going to, keep the torch lit for this particular style of filmmaking that is Father Harold, or if he'll do completely different things. Apparently, there's also a Possessor uncut version as well.
Yeah, that's the American version, isn't it? Because
it's like in the top 10 in America right now. I mean, not a lot of films that are making the top 10, but apparently there is an uncut version of this. So I'd be curious to see that.
So, talking of curious, this is the curious outcome for me, because I found it really difficult to rate this film, because I wouldn't say I necessarily enjoyed it. This is certainly a film that I think was done well, but I can't say it's something that I rate highly, even though I respect the director for what he's done with it. I can't. It just left me a bit cold. Maybe that's the point, though. Maybe it was meant to.
For me, this film did exactly what it was supposed to do. I'll probably watch it in 5 years from now. And be like, I don't know what I want to watch. Oh, yeah, Possessor. Let's watch that again. I don't know. I just think I like that style of filmmaking. A bit weird, a bit futuristic, a bit mysterious. So for me, it's actually an 8 out of 10.
Wow. It's a 6 for me.
Interesting. But what do Boys on Film viewers rate it as? I think I'd love to see everyone's opinions about this in the comments. So
Yeah, me too, because I've seen so many people, you know, obviously people on Twitter after it was screened at the BFI saying they loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And all these, not necessarily horror or sci-fi genre fans, but these people were just saying it was something that really got under their skin. So, you know, I can appreciate that.
What does everyone else think? Did it get under your skin? Let us know.
Leave a comment and give us a thumbs up as well. If you've enjoyed this film, don't forget to check out all the other films that we've got in our playlist by clicking on the playlist just on the screen at the moment. And yeah, we'll be back for some more coverage soon because we've got so much to get through, Raj.
Oh, a lot of films to talk about.